Hi everyone, so hopefully your leaders of learning have given you the introduction to the Dr. ICE teaching and learning model that we're going to try to implement here at Bedwas. And I have been given the first letter, the letter D, for deepening thinking. So we're going to have a look at that this afternoon. As you can see on the screen there, we pretty much know what deepening thinking is all about, developing ideas, go beyond the surface. Questioning we've worked a lot on already, and that's great for extending that thinking. And we've also talked about burning questions, and we'll revisit that soon. The first thing I want you to do though is have a little watch of a short video by a gentleman called Craig Barton, who does a lot of CPD for mathematics, and this is a little insight into how memory works.
We begin our exploration into the three theories that are at the centre of this online course with a look at a very simple model of memory. Now, what I'm about to say next makes me sound completely daft, but I've got to be honest with you. It took me about 12 years of teaching to give memory any serious consideration. And that just sounds so bizarre to me now because, of course, as teachers, we are very much in the memory business. If we don't have a decent understanding of how our students' memories work, there's a very real possibility that a lot of our efforts in terms of teachers and a lot of our students' effort in terms of learners will be wasted, because students will either not be able to successfully process the current thing that they're thinking about, or they'll successfully process it and seem to understand it at the time, but then not be able to retrieve it later. So when I started doing my reading and research for How I Wish I Taught Maths, my first book, trying to get a decent understanding of how memory works was one of my top priorities. So in that book, I introduced this very simple model of memory. And here we have two components, working memory and long-term memory. Now let's focus first on working memory. Working memory is where all thinking occurs. Information is processed, and that information could come from external sources, what students hear, what they read, what they see. But it can also come from their internal resources, from their long-term memory, knowledge stored in long-term memory. So information comes in from the outside and in from the inside, and it gets processed within working memory. So working memory is where all thought occurs, but there's a big problem with working memory, and that is that it has a finite capacity. Students, and indeed all of us, can only think about so much at any one time. Now, some people are lucky. Some people are born with bigger working memory capacities. Some people are unlucky. They're born with less working memory capacity. As far as we know, there is no general way to increase your working memory capacity. You can do specific things like brain training or memory palace, or those people who can remember a pack of 52 cards in the exact order. That seems like, my God, they can process like 52 things, 100 things, 5,000 things. But that's a specific technique that seems to be really domain specific. So it works really well for remembering lists of things, orders of things, but it doesn't then transfer, let's say, for example, to help expand your working memory capacity when it comes to mathematical problem solving, or when it comes to remembering French translations of English words. So as far as we know, we are kind of stuck with the working memory capacity that we're born with. But long-term memory is a different story. Long-term memory has a huge capacity. We don't know the limits of the capacity of long-term memory. And long-term memory is where all our knowledge is stored. Now, when long-term memory is working really well and it's organised, this knowledge is grouped together in what's called schema, connected knowledge. And these schemas may be interrelated as well. And long-term memory, as well as being this warehouse of all our knowledge, as I mentioned before, it's really going to help our thinking, because we can draw upon things that we already know to combine with this new stuff that's coming in to process these new thoughts.
Very interesting, thank you, Craig. So he's effectively alluding to if we get the students to think deeper about the topics we're trying to deliver, it has more chance of staying in that long-term memory, which will obviously help for recall on exams. So let's shake it up a bit of fun now. I'm going to give you some memory tasks. I'm going to show you some very basic pictures just for 10 seconds. And then I wanted to answer some questions on them that you have space on the sheet that's being provided. So you have 10 seconds to look at this picture. Right, can you please jot down what type of event, how many students were directly in front of the performer, and what colour was the performer's shoes? If your leaders of learning could pause for 30 seconds, please. Okay, and here are the answers to that. It was a rock concert, they were 4, and the performer's shoes were red with a little white front, they were Converse. Okay, 10 seconds to look at the next picture, here it is. Okay, and what colour and shape was the object directly over the girl's head? What colour and shape was the object directly over the girl's left hand? And what shape was the girl's hands? Leaders learning, please pause for 10 seconds while they write their answers down. And the answers to that were, as you can see there, it was a blue triangle, it was a red circle, and circle hands. Okay, one more, and then we'll move on. Last picture, 10 seconds to look at it. And the questions for this one: what colour was the sticker on the paint can? What colour was the painter's hat? What shape was the painter's nose? Leaders of learning, please pause for 10 seconds. And of course, the answers were pinky purple, light blue, and a triangle. Right, okay, let's go. So you might be wondering why are you here? And of course, that's a very good question. And we've spent a lot of time on this before, so I promise I'm not trying to teach you how to suck eggs. That's a very attractive picture there. Have a look at these questions, please, and maybe you can tell me. There's a few grammatical errors there. Questions to ask teachers why. Let's put them the right way round. Right, why do teachers ask questions? How might better questioning benefit learning? And how can we get students to ask better questions? Or in the case of my year 12 and 13, any questions at all. I mentioned this particular stat to you last time I spoke about questioning a few years ago. Questioning accounts for up to 1/3 of all of our teaching time. And are we really devoting enough time that it warrants? Not sure about that myself. So one of the things I want us to keep as a mantra throughout all of this is good learning will start with good questions rather than good answers. It's a really interesting mantra to have throughout your lessons. The first thing I'd like to share with you is something that's related mainly to mathematics, and it's something called same surface, different depth. Okay, so on the board there, you can't really see the questions in detail, but there's the fraction 3/5. And the skill is being able to find 3/5 of a number. But there are 4 different ways you can ask that question through application or different level of difficulty, etc. So we've run a lot of this in mathematics where we are using these types of questions, SSDD questions. And I'm sure they are out there as well for all other subjects. So you're applying the same skill and knowledge, but to obviously at a different depth, which is obviously improving the pupils' thinking and therefore helping their memory and recall. Again, I asked you last time I presented a training on questioning on what the definition of a nanosecond is, and I am the world's worst culprit. It's the period of time between me asking the class for the answer and then not being able to handle the silence, and I just give them the answer for them, and they've done no learning at all. I am definitely the world's worst at that, and obviously that's not a good thing. We have found, and when I say we, it wasn't me, it was someone who's done the research, that for lower order recall questions, 3 seconds is the optimum wait time. But if you want a higher order answer of pupils, you need to sit there in silence for 10 seconds. And as difficult as that sounds, that's something I think maybe we can all try. Okay, a quick fix is when we ask for responses of the kids, give them some extended thinking time. This is from the back of C block the other week. No, sorry, that's a mistake. How can we change our habits, some good, some bad? So as I just said, let's allow the kids to think. Let's give them some thinking time before we A, either provide the answers for them, or B, shoot them down for not giving them correctly. Think, pair, share activities. We see a lot of it across the school, but it's not happening in all classrooms. It's a really effective way of getting the kids to deepen their thinking, is to talk to themselves about the ideas in the classroom. This is a very good one. Specify the minimum number of words in the answer. So give them a question and say, I expect at least 20 words in your answer. And then, of course, give them the opportunity to think about that, the extended thinking time, and maybe even to share it with their partner first. But it's a very simple strategy that will improve the answers the pupils give. And finally, give them a criteria for the quality of answer you are looking for. And I know that the English department use success criteria very well. It allows the pupils to know exactly the level of depth in answer that the teacher is expecting. 4 very simple things there that everybody in their classroom could probably improve, to be fair. So what I would like you to do in a moment, I'll have the Leaders of Learning pause and give you, 4 to 5 minutes to have a little discussion about where you think you are with those 4 techniques of helping to deepen thinking and improve your questioning. So giving them extended thinking time, the think, pair, share activities, the minimum words, and the success criteria. On the sheet provided, rank yourself from 0 to 10. Be honest with yourselves and your colleagues in your faculty. Where do you think you are with those 4 attributes at the moment? Okay, so Leaders of Learning, will you pause please for about 5 minutes? Thank you.